When I think about dreams and purpose and all of that, you are one of the, like, honestly, one of the first persons that come to mind. Simply because when I was growing up, you were one of the first persons that I feel like I was introduced on how to dream.
Absolutely.
So, we can look into like the biblical background because we're women of faith of like Habakkuk 2:2, writing a vision. But like, of course, you balance both worlds. I balance both worlds. And you are the perfect example of visions and dreams and all of the things. Who taught you how to dream?
So I think it's really interesting. I don't even know that I put it in perspective until like you're talking about it, right? And you asked me that question. My mom was a dreamer, but she was a spiritual dreamer. She could dream and she could interpret her dreams. And a lot of times her dreams were about her children or what we were going to be doing, or God told me to tell you to do this.
And it would happen?
And it would happen. You could bet on her dreams, right? Sometimes she would call me and say, you're doing X, Y, and Z. And I'd be like, how should you know? Right? But she was that kind of dreamer. I have never been that kind of dreamer. I have in my older age become a dreamer, which is really interesting.
Is it freaking you out?
It is freaking me out. It is.
Okay.
Because I have become a dreamer, but now I'm like praying for the interpretation.
Yeah.
I usually will call someone else for the interpretation. And I'm like, what does this mean? So very recently I had a dream. And I was like, oh, this is what this dream means. I need to do X, Y, and Z, right? So I was like, oh, I just interpreted my own dream. But as far as like planning and dreaming and doing all of that, those things, I think, I'm not exactly sure where it came from. I watched my mother work, and my father, they would work, they would plan, and then they would execute. And I think it came from there. She would, a woman of faith, my mom was, and would say, this is what I want. This is how I have to do it to be able to go get it. People would think that it wasn't even something that was doable for her, right? But she didn't worry about that because she was a woman of faith, so she would do it. I remember one of my vivid memories is when she had a dream and God told her to write a check on his bank, is what she called it. So the check was written on Jesus's bank, but it was how much she wanted to pay for a house, what she wanted in the house, but she actually wrote a check and then put it with the stuff, and that's how much she paid for the house.
Are you serious?
I am serious. My brother still has the check today.
Wow.
He keeps it folded up in his wallet, but that's the kind of faith that she taught us. So when I think about dreaming, I think about faith first. Like, if this is what God has given me to do, then he's going to give me the plan in order to get it done. And then that's where my natural side comes in, because it's all about logistics. And for me, like, what's the next step? Like, what do I have to do in order to make that happen? Like, do I need to do a vision board? I think I was your first guest when we talked about vision boards, right? So how do I do a vision board? We're at the school, right? And so on your way out, you'll be able to see. But one of the first things that we did the first week of school is all the kids had to do a vision board. And so as you leave the building, you'll be able to see vision boards like out on the walls.
All your kids did a vision board.
They all did.
I don't know, and I'm not saying it's not principals that do that, but that's pretty rare.
It is. It was fun.
Yeah.
Right. And so it was. Where do you see yourself? Like, where do you see yourself? And until you can start really visioning it, like, how can you be it, right? And so the kids took it really seriously. And even when they didn't finish within the course of the week that we did it in, they came and got extra materials. Can I take materials home? Can I do all that? Of course you can, right? And then one student came to me, and now I brought vision boards from home. They're back there, my old ones. And for examples, when I taught them how to do the vision board. And then one student was like, where's your vision board? So I was like, wow, okay. Yeah. You know what I mean? It matters, right? Representation matters. Yeah. So like, when you leave outside my door, you'll see my vision board that I did right here in the office, while the kids could see me like working on my vision board as well. And so you got to be able to see it in order to do it. And then once you see it, we know people that are in the natural world call it manifesting. In the spiritual world, we call it coming. We call it manifesting too, but we know that God helps us manifest the plan in order to be able to do it.
I was going to ask you about that, the whole manifesting movement, because you hear it now today, like, it's just ever more. You hear it so much. And then you also hear it in the faith-based community, but it's kind of, it's definitely messaged a little bit different, like you said, because we know that God manifests us, and then, you never know like what someone in different spaces are talking about when they're talking about manifestation. What are your thoughts on all of that? Because I remember about 10 and a half years ago when people started getting into vision boards. Remember, it was a big thing, vision board parties, and I think people still do it, but it calmed down a little bit and it's a little different. What are your thoughts on that, on the culture and visions and manifestations?
So I would have to say, I'm a church kid. I grew up as a church kid. I'm a church kid. So I know that we go off of scripture, right? For I know the plans I have for you. So I always think about the plans that I would like to have, even though I put them on my vision board, unless they are aligned with what God has for me. The whole like manifestation, I don't want to say it doesn't work. Okay. I just think that before I do a vision board and before I even sit down to do the stuff, I pray about it, right? Because the things that are on my vision board, I want to align with what God has for me. And so I don't want my vision board to be saying I want to, be a multimillionaire selling real estate, but God is like, that's not really the lane I have for you. And so I think that everybody, whether it's God, whether it's the Creator, whether it's whoever it is that they pray to, there's a spiritual aspect to it. And so that manifestation principle is just really kind of carrying over into all the different lanes. We call it God. We recognize God, and that's who it is for us. For somebody else, it's the Creator, but there's still a spiritual aspect to what everybody is doing.
And so we're talking about dreams and, what manifests in your life. What is something, and because this is what's important to you, this is what matters to you, we're going to have conversations that matter. We talk about all the things in the world that's important to us, that matter to us. Now, when it comes to dreams and your visions, you look amazing, but you have a little age on you. What is something that you can think about that has not come to pass yet, that you're comfortable with sharing, that you are still hoping for and dreaming for? And then you can share something that did come to pass.
What you want me to do first?
Whichever one.
I'm going to start with what did come to pass. So in 2004, I began a doctoral program with two of my friends. We went through all the classes for 2 years. And then my friend was able to write her dissertation and complete and do everything that she needed to do, probably I think within the 3.5 year time mark that they give you. One of my friends didn't complete, and then there was me who kept saying, I'm going to complete, I'm going to complete, I'm going to complete. I feel like now that I've gone through all of it, it was like a testimony for me to be able to share with others, because it took 20 years in order for me to get it done. So I take that back when I say it was 2004. It was 2003.
Okay.
Because 20 years later, in 2023, I finished the doctoral program. I didn't give up. This is one of those examples where you can say, when God has something for you, it may look like you're not going to finish it, but he is going to make sure that it's outlined. I lost my mom in the process. I lost my dad and my sister in the process. I lost a job in the process. A lot of different things that happened, but I still kept pushing forward. In my head, I never gave up. I didn't know how it was going to happen. At one point, I thought I was going to have to start all over with all the money I had paid, and then start over with new debt, right? But in my mind, this was something that I had to finish, right?
And so how do you, and I want to pause because I think that's something really heavy. How do you manage, or how did you manage grief during that?
During those times, I think I stopped, right? You stop for a minute, and you start focusing on other stuff, because now you're really still trying to survive when pillars of your community are now gone. And so I can say that I stopped with my mom, and then I was she would want me to finish. So then I started working again, right? And working at it and working at it and working at it. And then something else happens and you stop. And you're like, ooh. But they would want me to finish. So you keep working, right? And so even when it got close to the end, there was a time when I was like, yeah, I'm doing this I'm going to get this dissertation done. I'm going to do this doctoral thing done. And one of my friends said to me, like, you don't really want that, because if you really want it, you'll get it done, right? And I was like, what? Like, don't talk to me like that. But the reality was, it was the kickstart you needed again. And so it's important to have people around you who are going to encourage you. Even when I was going through all of that, like, my friends would be like, no, you can't come to the girls' night. You got stuff to do, right? So people supported and made sure that I had a village and a community in order to get it done. And so it felt great to get it done. But because of who I am and what I do, I'm like, okay, now that's done. Now I'm on to the next thing. Right.
Yeah. I've been calling you Dr. P forever.
And people did. And on my dresser, I had a plate that said I think it says Dr. Denise Pitchford. But when I first started the program, one of the parents of one of my students bought that for me. And so it sat on my desk. And I kept saying, if she believes it, I got to believe it too, right? And so no matter what came, it was, you got to get this done. Something that hasn't come to pass. I think that there are, if you are in church, or if, depending on what kind of church you go to, you may have prophetic words that come across to you. So there have been several prophecies that people have given me that I've held on to, and I'm waiting for those to come to pass, right? So like, one person talked about my writing would make money for me. That was going to be my thing. And so it doesn't leave me to like write a book. And so it just is always like, what book am I going to write? Right? So I did the journal thing when I turned 50. So that was 5 years ago. But I did the journal thing. But that was another one of those things. I said I was going to do it. And it was like a month before I was turning 50. And I'm like, no, I'm getting this done. And so I finished it
that in a month before.
Yes. It's the pressure of challenge and competition for me. That's what drives me, right? So it was a month, I got it done, and on my 50th birthday, then I was able to say, hey, listen, this is what I did, right? Now I feel like I'm going to go a different way. And I have on my wall vision. Here we're talking about vision and how do you visualize a dream. If you go into my bedroom, it's not my bedroom, it's my office. So if you go into my office, I always have big Post-it papers along there, and there's always what is going to happen. Now, this dream that's on this wall, I also have this in my office at home. And so underneath it are where all my Post-it papers are that have the different things on there. So the book is there, definitely, to make sure that I get started with it. I've talked about how do you get it published. Last time I self-published, this time I want to publish it. Right? And so what's the process for making that happen? This time I think I'm going to write the book with students. And so it's like the title that I think I have is Through Their Eyes, and I'm going to like write like through their eyes. Right? The other passions that I have that are coming.
I love it. You heard it first here on Have Conversations That Matter.
That's right. And we'll make sure that people are able to purchase it. Maybe if they mention this video, they'll get a discount or something. But that is like a major thing. And then other things, Crystal, and other people have talked to me about podcasting, and so I am getting my feet wet in that and really planning for that. I always wanted to do t-shirts, and so did all the paperwork so that a partner and I can do t-shirts. My t-shirts talk. So you'll be looking for those t-shirts coming soon. So those are just some of the things that I'm into.
Some of the things. That is a lot of things.
I know, right?
That is a lot of things.
And the last thing I want to work on, so over the next year, that's what I just want to do. Just want to outline some of that stuff. And they're all dreams going back to dreams. They're all things that I dream about making happen, right? Like, it'd be great to watch people walk down the street wearing your t-shirt, right? And then the other thing is just a foundation. When people used to ask me, if I gave you $1 million, what would you do with it? I always said, make sure like kids could go to school for free, and that their parents understood the process so that they would be able to help walk beside them instead of steer them away from it, right? Because it is the ignorance, not in a negative way, but the ignorance of those who have not gone to college that causes students that like don't want to take out loans. You'll take out a loan for a car, but you don't want to take out a loan for school. But parents don't necessarily understand. And so that's what my dissertation was about, first generation college students, and what were the persisting factors that helped them to continue to go and stay there. And so just building off of that and making sure that all the students felt that support.
And were you a first generation student?
I was not.
Okay.
Nope. I'm the youngest of 9. So 5 of us went to college.
All this that you just shared. What would your mother say about you and dreams today? And has she visited you lately?
Crystal, that is so funny. I just had a dream about her the other day. That's the dream that I was able to interpret.
Okay.
What would she say? My mom definitely, I have a thing on my mirror that says, your dreams are your destiny. She wrote it. It's in her handwriting.
Oh.
And so she used to, I don't know, she must have heard someone say that.
Yeah.
And so she has it on her. She had it somewhere, but I have it up on the mirror, right? And so I think she would say, like, her whole thing is you can do and be anything that you want to do. What does God say about it? Like, that's going to be the first thing. Did you pray about it? That's going to be the next thing. And then go get it. Like, what are you waiting for? That's her thing.
That would be her thing.
That would be her thing.
So was that like, if you can give us a little bit of insight, was that kind of like what she was telling you?
In the dream, I think she was giving me the approval for something.
The approval. Okay, yes. Got you.
And so I don't see her often in dreams. So then when I woke up and I saw her in the dream, I was like, wow, this is a lot.
Yeah.
But
were you overwhelmed a little bit?
I was overwhelmed. Okay. I definitely was overwhelmed.
Are you still overwhelmed?
I'm still overwhelmed.
Yeah.
With how clear the message was for what I needed to do and how to move forward.
And she gave you the go.
Absolutely.
She's still parenting you.
She is still parenting me.
Isn't that dope?
She parents me through my friends too. She
really?
Parents me through, like, I have 2 friends that I say, you just like my mother.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's just interesting to, like, see them operate. And, like, sometimes they'll say something, whether I say it or not, I'm like, now Lenny Bell, like, what is happening? You know what I mean? One person I call Miss Lenny, and one person I call Lenny Bell or even Miss Lenny, and then one person I just always say, like, you're just like my mother, right? And so it's nice to like have that reminder.
Hear that. It does that gives you comfort.
It does.
Because how many years has it been?
My mom passed away in 2005, so it's been almost 20 years, and then 10 years later, my dad passed away.
Wow. Wow.
Yep.
So I have a question for you. Who do you go to when you receive great news? Who's the first person you think about calling? Because all of these dreams and all these visions that you have, and a lot of things have come to pass. Who's one of the very first people that you call?
I'm gonna have to think about this one, Crystal. That's so funny because I don't know that I have a first person that I call.
And I'm asking that because I'm trying to think about, your connection with your parents, and then, who's the earthly, parents or just the person that you look to when you get that great news, when you receive, my book is getting published now, like, who do you think will be one of the first people? I can say one, you can say one of the first people that you would reach out to.
Okay, so let's say first people, and then I'll go from there. Okay, ask me again.
Who's one of the first people?
Well, or you can say who are the people.
Yeah,
then I can like go from
and that's
person
okay
to person.
that you're thinking. We don't have to cut that part out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's really funny because it really depends on what the news is about, who it's going to be. I have been blessed with amazing spiritual parents, Bishop Bird and Pastor Pat, who, like, literally my mother and father really left here to parent me.
Okay.
I tease them all the time and say I'm the middle child because I really don't talk a lot or, all that kind of stuff. But they would definitely be people that I would call. God has blessed me with an amazing, I call it Wonder Twin. And my Wonder Twin is supportive and dreams as I dream and encourages and all of those things. And so that's the next call that I'm going to make. And maybe not even in that order. Then it just depends on who it is. Jerome, my brother, and I are very close. So he's going to be one of the phone calls. I have great sister friends. They're going to be the phone call. You know what? The reality is nowadays we don't do phone calls, right? It's like, let me shoot this text and say, this is what happened. And it covers a lot of people.
Do you FaceTime?
I do FaceTime.
Okay.
I do FaceTime. But for stuff like that, I'm really kind of a doer more so than anything else. So I never want God to think that I'm ungrateful, because I'm not. But it really takes a lot for me to be like super emotional about it, right? Like in my mind, this is what I'm supposed to do. So let me finish this. So now this is done.
Right.
Oh, I got this award. Oh, that's great. Like, oh, let me just share this with somebody. Like, and people will be like, so were you going to say anything? Like you were speaking at the blah, blah, blah.
So because you're like that, have you ever been challenged with celebrating?
I'm always challenged with celebrating.
Okay.
I love celebrating others.
Yeah.
Right? Like I don't know. Whatever. Like I'm super like celebratory with that. I love that for people. For me, for people. That's who I am. Right? Cards, gifts, phone calls, texts.
You're amazing. You're amazing.
Thank you, Crystal. With all of that, I do have trouble taking it, right? Okay. And so that's what my friends and family will say. Like,
so you have trouble with receiving.
With receiving it. I think it's I never want. I just am like. I mean, I'm fine. Like, you know, not a whole lot of attention. Like, not a whole lot of, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah. I like doing stuff, and I like getting it done, and I like sharing with you that I got it done. My biggest time is like birthdays. Like, I love birthdays, and so even when I plan a birthday party, it's funny because I'm like, I want to have the birthday party. I want everybody to come together. Yeah. I want us to have a really great time and laugh and talk and all of those kind of things. Please don't make me the center of attention. Though,
yeah, but it's your birthday.
But it's your birthday, and how dumb is that, right?
Yeah.
But it really is that. I know you were at my doctoral party, and then when I think about that, like all of my family and friends in one place, and everybody was sitting around this thing, right?
That was amazing.
But guess where I was sitting? Like off to the back, by myself. Like I think there was 2 people there. Somebody was handing me Kleenex, and then but it was just don't everybody look back here. Nobody even knew where I was sitting at, right? I waited until the lights went down because I don't want people staring. Like I don't want all of that attention. And even when I was planning that, like somebody said, you know, you're gonna have to talk, right? And I was like, I really don't have to. Like we can just do this whole program and it'll be fine. I don't require like all of that, but I love it. For other people. I'm like, we got to do this. We got to do this big. Like, we got to, so I don't know why.
And you wouldn't think that because you're so good at celebrating other people.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love it.
But a lot of times, a lot of people that are good at those things, you know, the other side of it is like, no, I'm good on me.
Yeah, and it is. And I don't know why. I don't know why. Like, I tried to look at, is it the birth order? But no, because I'm the youngest, so it's not that.
So you're the youngest of 9?
I'm the youngest of 9.
Okay.
And really like 2 sets, right? So I have a very, I hope they not watch this. I'm going to say very older. But I have older siblings, right? So I'm celebrating one of my sisters. She's 70, and my twin brothers are 80, right? So they're that older set who... Then when I was growing up, like I really had like a bunch of parents. I didn't just have 2 parents. I had 2 parents, and then I had this older set of siblings who all took care of me. There's a 9-year gap between me and my brother.
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't think it's that. I don't know where it comes from, but I love. But I know that whole like celebrating and gift giving and thoughtfulness, all that came from my mom. Like she lived for all of that.
She did.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What is something about her that you feel that you carry today?
The care and love for people. Absolutely. Always having, even though I have no biological children, I have lots of godchildren, but carrying that maternal kind of
you have so many children.
Yeah. Right. And so that whole thing, like sometimes like not wanting to see people struggle for detrimentally though, right? Like don't get involved in that, let them struggle.
Okay.
But she was just always going to be right there. Like we never knew strangers, right? Like I could come home from school and there could be a family in our basement, which was finished, like, right? And she'd be like, that's so and so and so, they're gonna be staying with us for a month. And we're like, okay.
So, you know what I mean? So that was your upbringing?
That was definitely my upbringing. Yeah,
really?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So Christmas time, like adopting families and making sure not just the kids had stuff, that the parents had stuff, that the dinner was there, like all that kind of stuff. Prison ministry was my mom. I serve at the food pantry a lot, but that is with my dad. So the food pantry was my dad's thing.
Okay.
And so when I do that, I feel like I embody his spirit
like
by
you're
doing
carrying that.
Absolutely.
Good. Why do you feel that having dreams are important?
Because I think if you don't have dreams, you can stay stagnant, right? And so then you can become complacent with what is, when God may have so much more for you. And so you're missing out. Like, you could be missing out. And so I don't believe that there's a person that God doesn't give a dream to. Sometimes the dream may come differently. It may come in I was asleep and this dream came to me.
Yeah.
It may come in a vision when you're sitting at your desk. It may come because you're watching a podcast and you're like, oh, I can do that too. Whatever it is, I think that he always speaks. The Holy Spirit speaks to us and gives us those dreams, but it's up to us to like ask him for his guidance in order to make it happen and then start walking it out.
I wanted to ask you though, I was thinking about it, dream killers. Dream killers. Because I would call you a certified dreamer.
I'll take that. Make me a shirt.
You're a certified dreamer, the coach of all dreams.
Thank you.
How have you navigated those people and those places? When the dream killers, like what did that look like for you?
I think I surround myself with people who are not, purposely. And I think that I have established myself in such a way in all of the spaces, as the people say, that people know who I am, what I like and what I don't like.
Okay.
And so it's very rare that people bring me any negativity because they know that I'm probably going to shut it down like very quickly.
Yeah.
Like, you can't tell me what I can do and what I can't do, because I can do whatever I want to do. I can do whatever God says I can do. I'm going to do whatever God says I can be, right? And so even when I hear people talk, like, I quickly, it probably isn't the best, because I think I challenge more than try to switch it, which can probably come across negative to them. But I think it just irritates me. That's one of those things that just irritates me. So then I'm like, well, why do you think that? Well, why do you say that? Well, why? You know what I mean? Like, it's like that. Yeah. So I probably could work on that. I got to grow up.
So you're one of those people, words, like, it means a lot to you.
Words
like,
matter.
You don't play with words.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. And not about me, not about my people, not about my organizations, not about any of that, right? Like, who are you to, because you haven't figured out who you want to be when you grow up, or you haven't figured out how to turn your negativity into positivity. Like, what you're not going to do is rain on everybody else's parade. Like, you're just not going to do that. So I think I'm kind of the blocker.
Okay.
Like not any of my family, friends, or anybody connected to me. Yeah. Like, you just aren't. But it goes back to surrounding yourself with good people, right?
Right.
Now, I do have people who I'll say, I'm about to jump off this building. I might wear a parachute, I might not, right? Now you got some people that'll be like, girl, jump, it'll be great. Like, it's gonna work out fine, right? And that's great. You need those cheerleaders. But then I have those people who go, so you might not wear a parachute? Like, what's going to happen if you don't wear the parachute? Do you think you should wear the parachute? But you need those people who are going to help you think the process through. Yeah. And I don't consider that negative, right? Like, they're just helping me think the process through.
And
it's people that you trust. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so so many times it's easier to have those people that are like, yeah, girl, go on and jump. Because then we try to count the other people's opinions out, but their opinions matter. And if you trust them and they're in your life and you trust them, then you trust that they are, what they say may hurt you, but it's never meant to harm you. Yeah. So it may hurt your feelings for the minute when they say, like, I don't see you as a scientist, but I do see you as a XYZ. Right. Yeah, that might hurt my feelings for a minute because I really thought I was a scientist, right? But then when you start thinking about it, they really are trying to save you time and money, because they're looking at you, and then you start thinking about it and you're like, okay, they didn't say it to like cause you to, like, they didn't say it trying to be negative. They didn't say it trying to tear you down. They said it so that you'll really, really think about it and consider what your next moves are.
Yeah. And then when it all boils down, you're like, you know what? I'm really
not a scientist. All right. I'm a comedian.
Yeah,
like, you know
like
what
I'm
I mean?
not a scientist. Yeah. So that filtering through, who taught you that? Because that can be very difficult. That's navigating relationships. That's navigating, spaces and places.
I think that's just like, again, watching my mom.
Okay.
Like navigate through spaces and places, right? Relationships and accepting people for who they were, right? Like she knew who her tribe was, right? And then she knew who the other people were that she like navigated through. When someone shows you who they are, believe them, right? And then treat them accordingly. You don't have to treat anybody bad, but just know, yeah, they're not really for me, but I can be pleasant when I see them and be okay with that. I just have always, I grew up in Oak Creek. I left Oak Creek, Wisconsin, where everybody was not colored, and then I went to Grambling where everybody was colored, right? And then came back to Milwaukee and then worked at Marquette where most of the people weren't colored. So I've like had to navigate a bunch of spaces all the time, all while going to Oak Creek. I grew up at Greater Galilee, so like, you quickly learned how to code switch, because otherwise you were going to get teased all the way down, which I did get teased a lot because I spoke very proper and I talked like a white girl. Let them tell it, right? But you quickly learned I learned how to navigate at a young age. And so then I was able to take that as I got older.
Yeah, because you had those two worlds.
Absolutely.
Your whole life.
My whole life. My best friend's name is Jody. From first grade, second grade. Hey, Jody, shout out. But yeah, I still have two best friends from Oak Creek. Kindergarten and second grade, and I don't know a lot of people that can say like they still have friends from kindergarten and second grade. Yeah, but we've navigated that, and it's interesting when you look back and I think about like they grew up in Oak Creek. All they knew was suburbs. I was going from Oak Creek to Milwaukee, right? Like I was going back and forth. But they were never afraid to like do anything. Like Jody was going to Greater Galilee with me when I was in like elementary school. Like I'm like, she's the only white girl at this little. But then I would go to their functions too, and so just learning. It's how I learned about different faiths. It's how I learned about different people. It's how I learned about different demographics, about rich people, poor people, people in the middle. I've just had a very balanced life, and so I'm really, really grateful for that.
Well, thank you for coming on and having conversations that matter.
Thank you for having me.